What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today's video showing you a team that I went 9-1 with on Go Battle Day in the Evolution Cup here with Crocalor and Togetic and Shadow Dusclops. This team was incredible, and yes, I know that there's been teams out there now with Crocalor and Togetic, and I may be a little bit late to the party, but I promise you this team is incredibly strong. And I saw so many Charjabug and Piloswine leads. I'm like, I'm putting Crocalor out here. I'm just doing it. And Togetic, absolutely dominant into the Dragons. Take a look at these battles here in this cup, and let's just see. It's just so good. Arctobac's in the lead. Okay, not so great here. It's a Dragon type, but it's got the Ice typing, which means that this is not a horrible lead. And even though they get to the Dragon Claw before we do, we can definitely let one go. Now, I put Shadow Dusclops in the back. I had one. I built it. I wanted to try it out. You don't need Shadow. You also don't need Dusclops. You could put, any real safe swap here in this meta, but it needs to have play against, in my opinion, the Dragons, and it needs to have play against Vigoroth. I feel like those are probably two of Crocalor's biggest weaknesses here, just because of pacing and damage resistances, right? When you get a Dragon lead, you want to put Crocalor in some sort of situation where it can try to farm down. So, and that's what I really like about Shadow Dusclops is the Shadow Punch, Ice Punch combination can put a lot of pressure on things like this. Hakumo here is going to have to give up its final shield or throw energy in order to take me out. And Togetic with Steel Wing. It's legacy. Steel Wing is not necessary. You can definitely play it with Fairy Wind, but Steel Wing gives Togetic a very good move to farm down things with and throw energy. Fairy Wind is really not something that I would recommend if you want to have that farm down. Now, obviously, yes, we would have farmed down Hakumo just fine, but you could farm down Vigoroth, you could farm down Dusclops, you could farm down pretty much anything in this meta that's not, water, fire, electric, those types that just kind of resist. Now, my opponent has triple weak to Togetic. Togetic took this personally and said, you know what? I'm going to get you. And the opponent just concedes. Good game. Very good team if I was running Vigoroth. And for once, I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to run Vigoroth because I don't need to. I played it already. I had my fun with it. So Vigoroth lead, I go straight to Dusclops. Togetic is technically a better answer because you double resist the counters. And due to the way that the timing of the moves work with Dusclops, if the opponent stays in, you can chip with that Ice Punch right away. Then the opponent comes in with a Alolan Graveler. This thing's a core breaker. I'm actually looking to try Alolan Graveler pretty soon here in this meta because if people are starting to run Crocalor Togetic a lot, this is going to be a very interesting team. Now, I should have shielded here, I'll be honest. Stone Edge absolutely just claps my cheeks. And I thought they were going to try and go for like a Rock Blast bait because I still had two shields. Now they shield and I'm looking like a fool. I got to come in with my Crocalor and all they have to do is start going for Rock Blast. And I'm not going to lie too. The 5-turn Incinerate into 4-turn Volt Switch is some of the most miserable move timing I've ever seen in my life, and I hate it. And it's just not fun. So my opponent now sees that I shield my Crocalor twice, and they're like, oh, he must be weak to Graveler. So they make a very good call here and swap out to the Vigoroth now. With that Rock Slide loaded, they landed on the Crocalor. Hurts like a lot. But this is what I'm talking about. Now I have the opportunity to farm down this Vigoroth, whereas with Fairy Wind, I would have been forced to throw a charge move. So, I mean, you all can probably see it already. Unless somehow I'm landing two moves against the opponent, and they have a Golbat in the back. Like, I'm done. All right, I got nothing, man. What? The Graveler was enough, but now they have Golbat as well. I'm completely cooked. And you know what? That's fine. That's a good game. Once in a while, you just get those teams where you just can't really maneuver your way around them. It's unfortunate. I had nothing. They had a shield. There was nothing I could have done there, so good game. Get into the next battle. We got Golbat on the lead here. Can stay in for a little bit. Opponent decides whether they want to throw for the Shadow Ball. I'm still going to shield regardless here, just in case it is, because they did build up to it. And I have to kind of stay in here because Togetic's in the back, and Togetic does not appreciate dealing with Golbat. Now, my opponent brings in a Dragonair, and I go for the Disarming Voice and get a shield back, which is huge. Now, I come in with Togetic and let it go to work. Togetic here, while it does double resist the Dragon-type moves, the body slams will add up, especially from a Shadow Dragonair. You can only really take one comfortably before having to shield, and I, unfortunately, make that mistake. and I overfarmed by too much, so now the body slam's coming through. My opponent may not shield this, though, as they probably just want to get a farm down with their Golbat. But hopefully I can live one move here and go for an Ancient Power or an Aerial Ace. I'm looking to just get a move off here before going down. Opponent comes in with Vigoroth, and I can go for that stab Aerial Ace here to do some chip damage. Dusclops looking pretty saucy here in this end game as I come in, and the opponent comes in with their Golbat, and that's the problem with the Golbat coming in here, is they have to now eat an Ice Punch, which they either have to shield it or they don't, and they let it go. And now it's all up to their Vigoroth with that shield advantage. I'm going to go for Ice Punch after Ice Punch. And honestly, at this point, I can just save the shield for Crocalor to incinerate down at the end game here, because they'll be low enough by the time I get through this matchup that Incinerates will be enough to take care. Because they basically are going to have to shield one of these Ice Punches or else, right? Like, they have no other option here. They kind of have to, otherwise they just lose. So they go for the double Rock Slide. I'm going to go for the Ice Punch here. Opponent probably is going to have to shield this. And if they don't, then we can just Incinerate down. Opponent does shield. I'm going to pump in immediately with Crocalor and go for the Crunch. My opponent concedes, and that's a good game. Getting into our next battle here. Croc on the lead versus Haunter. Another awkward lead because Dusclops does kind of get torn to shreds by those Shadow Claws. So I'm going to stay in. Incinerate does a ton of damage onto this Haunter. My opponent going for a move here on 6. I know it's not a Shadow Ball, but I also know that those Shadow Punches are probably going to hurt a lot. So I'm going to go for a Crunch here. Attempt to get the shield back as the opponent maybe looks to stay in and go for a 2 shield. Get both of my shields, for example. They go for the move straight away. I know this is a Shadow Punch, but I see value in my Crocalor as the opponent does not want to swap out. They come in with Vigoroth. I'm going to go for the Crunch here. They can get to a Body Slam before my next Incinerate finishes, so I'm going to get out into the Dusclops immediately and see what the opponent wants to do here. Dusclops is pretty comfy. Even a regular Dusclops, I would probably say you could still run Shadow Punch. I like Shadow Punch here over using something like Return or Poltergeist, just because the Shadow Boost really helps the Shadow Punches add up a lot more, and they're so much spammier, so that's why I prefer Shadow Punch. But if you're using a regular Dusclops, you could probably just get away with Poltergeist, or you could still use Shadow Punch. You could use a Purified Dusclops as well. Opponent having Spark Charge Bug, not wanting to spend that Elite TM, I don't blame him. But I would say Volt Switch is probably worth the TM, personally. But yeah, I think that you could run any version of Dusclops here and be fine. I actually was using the Return Ice Punch Purified Dusclops, and I just, for some reason, just was not feeling it. It really felt like it's not as good as it used to be. So their opponent comes back in with Vigoroth. Thankfully, that Crunch leaves Crocalor with 1 HP and a Dream. Those IVs coming in clutch. And we have Togetic with full HP in the back. Just needs to get to 1 charge move here, and that'll pretty much wrap things up against this opponent here. Rock Slide, gonna do a lot of damage, but not enough to KO Togetic in 1 shot. And here comes the Aerial Ace to wrap up this game after a Steel Wing. Good game. Get into the next battle here. Crocalor is on the lead against a Hakamo. This is one of those situations where you got to swap immediately into the Dusclops and try and find yourself a position for Crocalor to farm. Most often, at some point, opponent's going to swap out. Now, they're going to get to the Dragon Tail before I get to my Ice Punch, which sucks, but I'm going to let the bulk of my Dusclops do what it needs to do, and I am going to go ahead and just start throwing Ice Punches into the Vigoroth that just swapped in. Now, try to mind my timing here, because there's no real reason for me to let them get free counters through. If they decide to go for Rock Slide here, which is fine with me, that'll KO, and honestly, something's getting farmed down here, right? Like, Crocalor is doing fine. I could even give Crocalor 2 shields and a full farm down, and those Disarming Voices are going to get shields from the opponent's Hakamo easily if I come out of here with enough energy to take those out. So opponent goes for the Body Slam bait here. Very unfortunate for me, but thankfully they're not able to get to 2 moves here, and I'm going to be able to fire off both these Disarming Voices at the Hakamo if it comes in, but the opponent comes in with a Charge Bug instead. I'm going to fire off the energy here anyway, and at this point I'm just going to start incinerating, and I'm good because I have Togetic in the back, right? If they come in with a Charger Bug here, that's also fine because I know that all the value, I don't need the shields for the Hakamo. I need the shields for the Charge Bug to keep this energy alive here. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and throw both the Disarming Voices back to back and then swap the Togetic. My opponent probably top lefts at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that when I come out of this matchup, I have an Ancient Power loaded to KO the charge bug, and then that should pretty much wrap up this game here. So going for extra energy, like I said here, we just want to make sure that we don't throw the move right away. Want to make sure that we come out of the matchup with the Ancient Power pretty much ready to go, because that way the opponent can't outpace us to get to a discharge and take out the Togetic before it has the chance to do it. That's why over farming when you know you can is super important, and something that is really worth learning if you're still working on improving your skills. So very good game here to the opponent. And the whole knowing when to overfarm thing, that's really going to come to, you know, knowing move counts, you know, that knowing how many moves the opponent has and needs in order to get to their next charge move that would potentially threaten you, right? So like if they need, you know, 6 to the next rock slide, you want to make sure you throw your charge move before they get to 6. But, you know, you don't want to overfarm too much. Obviously, you don't want to lose CMP to that rock slide, but you also want to make sure you're getting as much energy as possible in situations where it makes sense to do so. Now, my opponent stays in here, but then they swap into Sealeo, making a very, very nice catch here. But the thing with Sealeo is that it has Body Slam, which is really awkward for it in this matchup. They basically have to go for like the Aurora Beam or the Water Pulse or whatever move it is that they're using. And once they show me what that move is, I can make a decision on whether I'm coming in with Crocalor or not. Because if they're running Water Pulse, then that's going to be a very difficult thing for me to swap in my Croc to. And I'm going to have to give a shield up for that farm down. But if my opponent goes for Body Slam here, I might have to play guessing game. If they go for Aurora Beam, which now means Crocalor is safe to come in and eat a move and farm down my opponent, giving me nearly a full free Incinerate here as well. Going for this Body Slam as soon as they get to it, and I'm able to Incinerate down here. And I have energy for whatever comes in next, and whatever is going to come in next will probably not appreciate the energy here. They're going to come in with the Vigoroth and go for a move immediately. I'm going to shield in case it is a Rock Slide, because I did kind of lose count here a bit. So I'm going to go for another Incinerate for that good timing. And I'm going to be able to get this crunch off. Go for back-to-back crunches here to try and get both shields. And then let Togetic come in and do its thing. And we're going to see what the opponent has in the back. They're going to go for a Rock Slide. I'm going to let this go. I'm not sure what's in the back, but I'm kind of thinking maybe Charge a Bug, maybe, you know, something. I don't know what's in the back, but I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace here before they're able to get to another charge move, just to make sure that my Togetic is still alive and well, and they have Hakamo in the back, and that's going to be a good game, as they have no chance. And honestly, that's why I like Togetic in the back so much, because like whenever there's a dragon in the back, it's just an auto win. It's just every time you see a dragon in the back against it, you just basically win. And that's what's been so strong for it. Now, I come in with my Dusclops immediately. Once again, you know, Crocalor needs to be able to farm in order to handle this situation, so I'm going to go ahead and shield up a move here just to make sure that I don't get completely destroyed by whatever comes in. And my opponent comes in with their Dusclops, and they're a bit behind in energy. It's a purified Dusclops, so I'm expecting it to be Ice Punch and return. And my opponent throws Shadow Punch and completely catches me off guard here. So I'm not sure who's going to win CMP, considering that my IVs are pretty good for a Shadow and they purified. I'm going to assume they probably win CMP. And I'm just going to let this go. This is a perfect opportunity to let Crocalor farm down. It's Dusclops, so it's not like I need to worry too much about the damage being done to me. It's like it's Ice Punch or it's Shadow Punch, right? They're not going to have Poltergeist Shadow Punch. That would be silly. So Shadow Punch is going to go ahead and come through, and then the opponent hard swaps into Dragonair. I'm going to go for this Disarming Voice, get the shield, and the Togetic is going to come in. And now I'm ready. Right, like I'm going to let Togetic eat a move here, get some extra farm, and whatever's in the back, this energy is going to be useful, and I still have Crocalor. Now, I don't remember exactly how much energy they had. I probably could have farmed up a few more moves, but I didn't want to take the risk because I didn't know what they were at. Know that the Dusclops is in the back with no HP, so whatever the opponent comes in with next, it's going to be a Primeape, and we're chilling. I'm going to get the first shield here with this Aerial Ace. I just need to get to a second, and I'm good. I just need to watch out for a catch here. And honestly, I could also keep in mind that Crocalor's nearly got a Disarming Voice. So I could just let this go, because I'm hoping maybe the opponent base with Night Slash. They full send the Ice Punch, and now what I need to do is go for Crocalor. My opponent trying to make a catch here, forgetting how much energy I had, and they concede after knowing that they got farmed down. So good game there. Got Crocalor against Dusclops. This is why I like having Crunch over Flamethrower for this matchup in particular. Flamethrower I don't really see as much of a need for because of just how much raw damage Incinerate puts out. So I like to have the coverage for Crunch. It does enough damage, just what I need it to do here. I'm going to let the opponent throw first here on their timing. So I can do what's called a cycle reset, which is basically when you let a charge move happen so that timing resets back to that state where nobody's doing anything and the game starts back up with fast moves, so that I can make sure that my timing is proper. And then I come in with my Dusclops to get a farm down. My opponent may not have Shadow Punch, and if they do, that's fine. I can easily take one, but they just throw the Ice Punch, which is great. And now it's going to be up to the opponent to see what they come in with next, because they have a Vigoroth in the back. This is great here because this is now also keeping the Vigoroth away from my Crocalor. I don't know what their third Pokemon is, but we're going to be able to do a lot of chip damage to the Vigoroth and put a lot of pressure on it because my opponent's already down a shield. They're probably not going to want to put another shield down in order to protect the Vigoroth very much. So we're going to continue to just let off the Ice Punches. I'm saving 2 shields for either Togetic or Crocalor. Between the two of those, there's not much in this meta that can really tangle with that core. It's a very, very strong core. Yes, obviously there's going to be some things that can definitely beat it, like Graveler. There's a Graveler in the back, then that's it. But my opponent getting very low here. I decide to come in with my Crocalor and expend a shield to get this Incinerate farm down, and the opponent has a Primeape in the back. Togetic just sitting in back, just waiting, dude. It's ready. So Dusclops, double counter user, makes sense to me. I'm saving the shield for my Togetic here for sure, if I need to, but instead I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let Crocalor do its thing. I'm going to go for the Disarming Voice. I actually don't know how much damage this does. I want to see if it can take out Primeape from this range, and it does take it out. That's a good game. Well played. And if I didn't say it already, this team did take me from low 2800s all the way up to like 2920 something. So this team it did so incredibly well. Opponent, another Hakamo lead here, so we're going to come in with the Dusclops and need a move. And again, that double super effective Disarming Voice, it just give me a farm down opportunity, right? And the opponent comes in with a Vigoroth. This is that perfect situation where I can get them, after a couple of Ice Punches, I can get them to a point where Crocalor can farm them down. A Rock Slide would not do quite enough damage from this range, which is good. Crocalor, hopefully I get one more Ice Punch in. I kind of wanted to, but the opponent goes for that Rock Slide. I kind of expected them to, but I was like, man, maybe just one more. But the Crocalor is going to be able to get a lot of farm from this. I'm going to actually give 1 shield up to this Vigoroth in order to get this farm down. And I should hopefully be able to get both those shields back. Now, unfortunately, my opponent goes for Body Slam bait here. And now I wanted to shield up the next move, but I'm hoping a Rock Slide's not enough. But thankfully, they just get the 2 Body Slams. So I'm going to go ahead and go for a Disarming Voice here. And then I could honestly go for another one because they are just at 1 Dragon Tail, and they need 2 more or 3 more to get to a move. So I can get both shields here. And now Togetic with shield advantage, it can come in here, absorb the energy from the Hakamo if it needs to, and they have a Charge Bug. So this normally would be pretty bad, but the shield advantage is what's going to allow Togetic to win this matchup because Ancient Power does just about 40-45%. With the Steel Wings, it's going to allow me to get to another move. Now, unfortunately, my opponent baits with the X-Scissor. I thought they would just go straight Discharge. And I thought they were at the Discharge after this, but apparently they were 1 off. So, able to get the Ancient Power through, and then Hakamo is just sad. We're going to get to the Aerial Ace here and take it out. My opponent concedes. That's a good game. And getting into the next battle here, Crocalor on the lead versus Vigoroth. You know, it's funny that I was seeing all these Charge-a-Bugs and Piloswines on the lead, and then I played this team for 2 sets. I see none of them anywhere. But that's okay. We still got some wins, and that's what matters. This team is so good. I love it so much. Crocalor, like, Skeletor's Crocalor, like, you just give them to me and just say less, dude. Say less. All right, overfarming a bunch here, and I'm hoping this was good timing. For me, it's like 50-50 whether I throw on good timing or I throw on alignment like a bozo. And I'm able to get another Shadow Punch off as my opponent is going for more farm. The ideal farm for my opponent here is go for 1 Volt Switch and then go, or 2 Volt Switches, I think is, I mean, yeah, 2 Volt Switches is technically the ideal, I think, here. Or 2 or 4. It's really not fun timing. It's almost as not fun as dealing with the Incinerate timing. But I'm going to come in with Crocalor and try and get the snipe. The opponent lives on 1 HP, and I'm so sad. I'm going to hope this is an X-Scissor, but I'm going to shield up in case of Discharge, and it is. My opponent comes in with the Vigoroth and is able to get to another move. I'm like, man, do I really got to spend my other shield on this? Yeah, because it's a potential rock slide, so I got to respect it. But we're going to be able to get to this crunch here. My opponent can shield up this Vigoroth. It depends what they have in the back. We're going to have to see what the opponent decides to do. They do shield that up here, and it looks like they're probably able to get to another rock slide, which is going to hurt, but Crocalor's God. Not as much of a god, though, as I'd like to think, though. He does get farmed down, unfortunately. But the Togetic is sitting in back, doing pretty well here. Can get some farm. I might even have to farm all the way down. We're going to have to see. I was trying to hopefully catch, but I was off by 1 on that on the Vigoroth's council. So Rock Slide's going to hurt. Now the opponent tries to come in with a Charge Bug. Perhaps they had a move loaded. I'm not sure. But they go for a Volt Switch either by accident. I would imagine they probably had a move loaded. That seems like something that they would normally want to do. If they had a move loaded, but in any case here, they have a Hakumo in the back, so thankfully we're able to get to the damage here and they concede. That's a good game. I definitely know that I would lose that game if my opponent had a discharge loaded, so if they did, you know, that sucks. The game really enjoys dicking people over like that. I know I've done a ton of times where I've tried to throw a charge move, and it's like, no, you're going to throw a fast move instead. And half the time I lose. 29-34. That's the elo we get to with this team. So, very strong team. Really recommend it. Again, I know I say it in pretty much every video, but really recommend checking out the YouTube membership and the Patreon. Links in the description for the Discord. Teams have been in my Discord server since Go Battle Day. Lots of people in the Discord server really doing really well with these teams. And before they hit YouTube even, so... Early access is something you enjoy. I also have early access to my meta guides. Put those out on like Tuesday-ish. So another, there's a bunch of really good stuff in that Discord. I would pay for it if I had, if I wasn't already the one who made it, right? And if you're looking for coaching on my Metafy, look in the pinned comment and description. I'm losing my ability to speak, so that's going to do it for me for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.